Sorry.
I can't continue.
Okay, we're sitting here with Dr. Hankins, who is the curator and founder of the Aces Museum located at Germantown and Price Street in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Dr. Hankins, welcome to the interview.
Thank you for inviting me.
Okay, Dr. Hankins, because this subject has been neglected for so long, tell us the effects of not knowing this information up until this point.
Well, what we're doing is ACES is at the site of the historic Parker Hall. We were just certified historic this year in 2023 after having a program for over 20 years. When the Parker Hall was discovered in 2000, the decision was to preserve it and to use it as a springboard to tell the history of blacks and other minorities in World War II that fought so hard for liberty. It's important for several reasons, and our motto is respect the past, nurture the future. Not only are we given a past history, but we're in a position here where it's gunshots and death on a regular basis because the drug culture is one of the things that decreases the potential for minority students. And what we hope to do is to give them these wonderful tales of people that acted on hope, some of them realizing they would never benefit from the events that they did. But the thing is that people don't understand because they didn't have a history and don't have a history of the different contributions that the blacks and minorities have made, not only in World War II, but in a persistent struggle for liberty. And we can use this as a springboard to motivate our children who want to get into fights or die or something as frivolous as a pair of gym shoes or what somebody says about them.
I see a sign on your window as you come into the entrance of the Aces Museum where it says, "Land of the free because of the brave." I thought that was a profound statement. Am I saying it correctly?
Absolutely, because we take for granted not only the men and women that sacrificed in World War II, which is important because it changed the status of the world. It went from being royalty to independent states. It went from a concept of ownership of people to the possibility that every person is important. And for blacks, it was, and minorities in this country, it was a springboard for what would become the civil rights movement, because there was a victory campaign double against fascism overseas and racism at home.
So was that your motivation for founding the Aces Museum?
Well, my motivation was because I sort of didn't have a choice. When we discovered Parker Hall, my father, who was a World War II disabled veteran in Special Forces, and my mother, who was a Rosary Riveter, were activists. And the decision was made by the family that we would preserve this site at all costs. And believe me, over the 20 years, it's been a struggle. It's a struggle even to this day to even get our certification, to get funding for things like that, when you would think that people would be jumping for joy at telling this undone history. Quite the contrary. And we have been told, oh, this is not important. Well, that's why our children don't think it's important. Because if the history is not important, it's like a tree without roots. It's withering, it's dying. And what we are is we're rain and flowers in springtime, saying, squeeze the blessing out. How wonderful it is for these men and women to have fought in the past and to fight now, because we can sleep. We have a wonderful puppet show called The Big George Tailors, and it's about the black veterans that fought both in Korea and in World War II. And the Me Mommy puppet, the Hispanic puppet, is talking to Angelo Torres, who is named after one of our Korean naval Puerto Rican veterans. And his mother, Me Mommy, tells her, you can only sleep because of the Big George Tailors, for the people that stood up there and fought so that we could sleep.
Big George Taylor. Very interesting. Been reading up on him. Yeah, okay, so you're saying that you've been at this for 20 years.
Yes.
And you think now is the time that we need to start rescuing and documenting these great stories that can only be told by the veterans that had experienced it.
Yes, because what happened prior to our certification this year, there was a threat of being demolished. Now that
The
we,
building being
yes,
demolished?
being demolished, developers want this place bad. So the thing is that now that we have our historical designation, that is protective. So now we can tell the stories. We don't want veterans, some of which have been hurt, to be hurt again. And so we can say with as much clarity as you can say that this history will be preserved on the website and other vehicles for the veterans, for their families, and more important for our children, our youth, to see these and hear these wonderful, exciting stories.
So there's going to be an archive of information in the libraries or any of the learning institutions that you can put your hands on it, or you can access it by any social media or whatever forms of communications, that they can hear these stories told by people that actually experienced it during that era.
Absolutely.
And I guess they have some great stories to tell.
Well, the beauty of it is that everybody's unique and everybody has different experiences, either positive or negative. But the main thing about the elderly veterans is their whole experience was negative. They were segregated, they got the worst supplies, they didn't get promoted, they got sent to the most horrible places. A lot of times they were degraded as human beings, said that they were monkeys and didn't have an intelligence. But through all of that, they persevered. And it's kind of hard for our young people to understand, why would you even want to be bothered? Well, they wanted to be bothered because they wanted to stand as men and women and say, I have a right. I have a right to drink at any water fountain. I have a right to eat at any restaurant. I have a right for my child to go to college. And there's a great push in this country right now saying college is not important, whereas immigrants are coming over and sending their kids to college. College is important. If nothing else, it gives our young people a chance to mature, cocooned, rather being in jail getting gang raped. We need to change our value system. Instead of valuing the person that's selfish, get rich or die trying, we should value the people that's saying, I'm going to die for you. Greater has no man that gives his life for the other individual. And that's why, through personal, very considering what they went through, small sacrifice, we have to keep this place open. We have to keep the stories going because our young people needs to hear them and say, look, because somebody says something about you on social media. I was looking in the morning at Morning Joe, and they say 1/3 of the minority girls have something negative to say to them about social media. And I had talked to this young lady who actually wanted to kill herself because somebody said something about her on social media. So I asked her, I said, are you purple? She said, no. I said, are you purple? She said, no. I said, are you purple? She said, no. Why you keep asking me that? I said, because if you know you're not purple, you're not purple. Don't let somebody else define you.
Okay, Dr. Hankins, where are we going in the future with the ACES Museum and with these video interviews that we're capturing from veterans that actually had these experiences when it was really Jim Crow? I understand that a lot of times the African soldiers were used as shields for the Europeans. They caught the bullet. Where do you see us going in the future? Where should we be in the next 20 years?
Well, we would
and
hope,
beyond.
We would hope in the next 20 years.
Well, let's start from today and go.
Well, what we want to do today is, number one, make sure that this historic site is well known and well preserved, so we're never, never, never being threatened with development of another condo. So much black and minority history has been destroyed because it's not viewed as relevant. And again, our children don't see themselves as relevant for this reason. So we can have that connection, that wonderful connection of these people who fought and knew they wouldn't personally benefit, so that our children could benefit, our youth could benefit. That's where we want to take this. We want to motivate them so when they go on social media and somebody says that they're purple, they're going to say, it doesn't even matter because I can do whatever I want to do like any other race.